You're listening to The Tales We Tell, a podcast about spooky stories, unsolved mysteries, and local lore. I'm your host, Hannah Parch.
And I'm Katie.
Welcome back
to another week of technical issues.
Technical problems again. But it's okay. Katie can hear me, which is the important thing. I can hear Katie with my ears, but not with my headphones.
Really? Because I hear you with my mouth, so...
Well, obviously I have
And my shoulders. Don't ask me how that works, it just does.
And, you know, I'm realizing the more I turn this way to look at you, I can still kind of see the guys of my peripheral, which is, you know, always my goal.
By the guys, she of course means our...
Alcatraz mugshots.
Our photo collage of convicted felons.
Yes. All of whom are dead. All of whom were killed. Actually, that's not true.
Yeah, we got some missing presumed dead.
Missing and presumed dead, but the rest were killed. Mostly I now have a good view of Steven the squirrel, who's above Katie.
He's my guardian squirrel.
It's true.
He keeps me safe.
I keep thinking of things, since so much from my house, or so much in my house was taken from my grandma's house, with permission.
And is now being moved back to said house?
Well, yeah, now that we have the house, and I'm, like, kind of redecorating it, because everything had been, like, removed and put upstairs. Now I'm, like, looking around my house, and I'm like, oh, do I want to take that back to there? I think I am taking haunted pictures, which Jarek thought I told you that. I was with you when he texted me that he thought he saw an apparition in our bedroom. I'm going to call that Grandma, Grandpa, Alice, and
but that seemed
William.
Like a peaceful, like...
Yeah.
It was a whatever. Like, we said if they're pissed to knock the candlesticks, they still seem perfectly stable up there.
Yep.
So...
But now that I have their original home, I'm going to bring them back, probably.
Okay.
But Steven came from that house, and...
Steven stays.
Yeah, he will stay, even though I know exactly where he came from.
Steven's mine. Like, I know he's not mine, but he's mine. I've become emotionally attached to Steven.
That's fair. The place where he came from is what I think I'm going to turn into my sewing area. Mm-hmm. Weirdly, I now have too many rooms, and I don't know what... I was telling Jarek, I was like, what should we do with that upstairs middle room? Because it's not going to be a bedroom, because we don't have enough beds.
Turn it into something like kind of obscure or very, very niche. Yes. Or like make it or something completely unnecessary, like a meditation room.
Yeah. Well, because we're going to have like the parlor/library downstairs. This house, guys, has a parlor/library with built-in shelving. It's got a living room. It's got a kitchen that's open to the living room with bar seating. It's got 5 bedrooms, like 3 downstairs, 2 upstairs, 3 full bathrooms. And we only have 2 beds so far. 2.5. There's a cot that technically.
So, well, I guess when Shelton and I come, there will be a bed for us.
Yes. We just have to. I need to get a mattress topper for it because the mattress is not comfortable. And we need to move it. We're going to move it upstairs because there's this really big bedroom upstairs that has this great, like...
So either we sleep there or it's BYOBUB. Bring your own blow-up bed.
Bring your own... Exactly. I'll have a room for you.
BYOAB.
Yes.
Bring your own airbed.
Yeah. But there's a really nice room upstairs. It's really big. It's got this great, like, window desk. Every room has huge closets. But... it's currently full of crap. That's just where everyone put everything. So
I have one of those rooms.
Yeah. And the bed we're going to put in there is downstairs. We did it the hard way. We took a bed from upstairs and moved it downstairs. Now we're going to take a bed from downstairs and move it upstairs. Because I liked the sleigh bed better than the 4-poster bed, which is what the guest room will be.
Oh, I like 4 posters better than sleighs.
Well, good. Because that's what you'll sleep in.
Good.
Anyway, I have some announcements. The first one is a reminder that we have a live show.
And it's free.
It's free. It's on June 26th at 7:30 at Pinky's Pub. Pinky's the bar upstairs. I don't know what they call themselves. It will be recorded, so obviously our non-local listeners will be able to listen to it. Also, I'm going to see if we can figure out how to live stream it, which leads me into my next announcement, which is that I am working on getting us on YouTube, audio only. Don't worry. There's not a secret camera set up somewhere. But I was looking at our options with Buzzsprout, which is who we host through, and they had YouTube, and I was like, just check this out. And it's like several steps, one of which I had to like verify my identity with YouTube by sending them a video of my face. But presumably tomorrow I'll be able to link them up, and then it'll just automatically update them. So you guys aren't going to get to see our moving faces again. But we'll probably try to record visually record the live show too, because we did that last year. So that's it. Those are all my announcements, in case you've got one.
No.
Okay.
No, I was just gonna say the critter story that I told you when I first came over.
Oh, yeah.
I was trying to leave my house to come over and record, but my child was having none of it. And so, I got him dinner, got him all set up at the table. He set the table.
Of course. He's very opinionated.
Well, he does chores.
Well, yeah, as he should.
And so my husband was sitting at the table.
Useless.
And they were eating dinner together.
Sorry.
And I was like, okay, he's sitting, he's eating, he's talking with you. Like, I'm going to sneak out, like, not making a big deal out of this. And I make it all the way to the door. I have my shoes on. I'm like, I grab the bottle of wine. I'm trying to grab my purse. And I already hear the little pitter patter. And I hear, no, mama, no. And he grabs my hand. And he leads me back to the dining room, brings me all the way to my chair, pulls my chair out from me,
like
and
a little
says,
gentleman.
Says, Mama, sit. And then he goes back to his chair, and then so I'm like, well, obviously I have to sit now. That was just way too cute.
Oh, yeah.
So, anyway,
you made it here.
My kid is an adorable little gentleman.
And announcement for everyone, her kid finally asks for me to hold him, which is a big deal to me, because previously he like specifically rejected the idea of Aunt Hannah holding him, and now
he still loves you.
Oh yeah,
regardless of if he wants to be held by you.
I know, but I love holding babies and toddlers, and when they don't want me to hold them, I get sad. I told you my other nephew already doesn't want me to hold him, although he was warming up to me last night. So I've got, 2 toddler nephews that maybe like me. One that definitely does.
Yeah.
One that I think is warming up, so.
Yeah, my thing is, I don't ask if a toddler wants to be held. I'm just like, I'm going to pick you up now. And it's not usually I'm going to pick you up and hold you. It's I'm going to pick you up and throw you over my shoulder kind of a thing. Yeah. Or I'm going to flip you.
Oh, yeah.
Swing you around. Like, I love to roughhouse.
Yeah, when you were doing that, I was at Katie's Thursday to watch Swing Kids, to be continued. And we had to go watch the train because Katie lives next to a train. And Walker...
A switching yard. Not just a train track.
Not even...
A switching yard. So the train goes back and forth.
Specifically just for the train to linger. But Walker asked me to hold him, which obviously I did. And then when Mama was holding him, Mama was doing crazy flips upside down, flinging his head all around.
I wasn't flipping. I was just dipping him
down.
It
just, to me, seems scary.
I mean, compared to what I normally do with him, that was nothing.
And then he asked for me to hold him again, and he goes, what does he say, upside down? Or
upside down.
Yeah, so he said, Hannah upside down? And I said, nope. No. That's a mama thing. Aunt Hannah can't do that. Or won't. Because I'm too afraid I'm going to just drop you and slam your head into the gravel. So
you could have done it on the grass. You would have been fine.
Yeah, still. Okay, are you ready
I
for
am ready.
today's episode?
Please.
Which is on
Please.
Doppelgangers.
Ooh, nice.
It was going to
Apparently, I have a lot of those.
Ooh, well, we'll talk about it. It was going to be specifically mimics, but
They still freak you out too much?
no, there's not any information on them.
Hmm.
Spoiler alert for the end, where I just say I couldn't find hardly anything except TikTok videos about these. I'll still talk about like what I learned, but for now we're going to start with...
But it's all like anecdotal.
Yes, and it's all videos that could very easily have been faked, and you just like kind of like to believe that they're real because it's creepier that way.
Well, there was one video that I was watching the other day, and it was different cars, especially luxury models, being parked right in front of a solid wall. And
I love those videos.
Being hit with a Mack truck. And I watched through it for a while, and I was like, look how they just crunch and crumple. And like, ooh. And they had like survivability of like, 1% or 40%.
Some of those cars do just crumble.
And I went and looked at the comments, and they said something about, it being, AI generated things, and there was some snarky things, and I'm like, wait, hold up. And they're like, oh yeah, you gotta love these animated movies. And I was like, what? And someone made a comment about the clouds in the background not moving. And I was like, yeah, notice that.
Oh,
and then like the more because there was a couple times while I was watching it, I was like, something about that looked a little weird. Like I couldn't put my finger on it. I was like, something about the truck, the way that it looks, or the way that it hit the car seemed, or the way that it backed up seemed odd. But then there was other times it just seemed so like fully believable.
Yeah.
And God, I hate AI.
Oh man, I got it. Well, I can't go back and find them, but I'm so interested to know, because I watch them and just wait for the Subarus to show up.
Same. It's what I was waiting for. But they didn't have one in that collection.
I specifically searched for them. We do fine.
And again, like, I don't, like, this was just something that popped up randomly on a Facebook video or something. So I don't know, like, yes, it might be computer generated, but is this, based on a bunch of data points and, like, facts and information that it's a computer generated model of what a accident like this would look like.
Right.
Or is this just complete garbage?
Right. Okay, you ready for doppelgangers?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know what doppelganger means in German?
In German, no.
Well, I guess the German word doppelganger, what it means.
I mean, I know, like, colloquially. Is that how you say that one?
Yes.
I know colloquialism.
Okay. Colloquially.
I think that's how you say it. In that
colloquial.
In that tense or whatever.
Okay.
That's one of those words that you say, honestly, you say it like twice and you're like, oh, it no longer sounds right.
Yeah. I'm already uncertain.
So, a doppelganger is someone who basically kind of like shares your appearance, maybe even your mannerisms or whatever. Basically, like your twins separated at birth kind of a thing.
Yes.
And I think in like creepier terms, a doppelganger is also someone that will like try and take over your life.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So the German word doppelganger means double walker. And it's a lookalike of a living person who is not related. So technically those things you see online where it's like, look at this 1860s picture that looks like Nicolas Cage. It's a doppelganger. That's not correct. Because they both have to be living. So doppelgangers have only recently been regarded as paranormal in English-speaking cultures. But the concept of paranormal doppelgangers is much older than the English-speaking cultures.
I told you this past week I had not one but two people within the span of 30 minutes or less, honestly, think that I was someone else.
It's so weird when that happens, too.
I was sitting on the bench in the locker room at the Y getting ready to go out to the pool, and some woman walks in and kind of looks, and I see out of the corner of my eye, she does like a double take and goes, Laura? And I was like, and that's when I looked up at her, and she's like, oh, no, you're not Laura. And she's like, sorry, from the side, I thought you were, someone I hadn't seen in a really long time, but then you looked at me and like, no. I was like, nope, I am not Laura, but...
And see, there's two kinds of people.
Thanks for at least wanting to say hi.
There's two kinds of people. People who think they see someone they know and say hi, and people who have to confirm in 8 different ways that the person that they see is actually the person they think, and then they still won't say hi. And so I'm the latter.
I had that experience. So when Shelton and I went to Greece to get married, we had a long layover in Amsterdam to the point where we were able to leave the airport and go wander around the city for a little while.
Right.
And, it started I think as early as the airport, at Dulles, because we flew out of D.C. From that point all the way to once we finally landed in Athens and, ventured out from our hotel, I had seen 2, maybe 3 doppelgangers, to the point where I'm like...
Of yourself?
No, of people that I knew.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, I haven't seen this person in, years, so is it them? And I'm like awkwardly staring. And one was like, oh no, that's not them. The other one was like, is that Austin?
Well, and if it's someone you haven't seen in a while too, you can be like, well, they might have changed a little bit.
Yeah. And so I'm just like, am I remembering them correctly? This person looks so much like my friend. Mm-hmm. And then Shelton and I, we venture out to Athens, and we're wandering around. I'm hungry, and I'm like, just pick a restaurant, because there's cafe next to cafe next to cafe. I'm like, they're all serving the same things. Just pick one. And so finally, he does pick one, and I'm glad that he picked that one and not the one that I was like, look, here's the first one. Let's just eat here. Because I look over, catty corner from the table that we're sitting at. I'm like, oh my God, another one. It's like, look at the girl, the brunette at that table. And Shelton goes, is that Nicole? And I'm like, so you see it too? And he goes, does she have a paw print tattoo? I was like, does that girl have the paw print? He's like, yeah, does Nicole? I was like, oh. And I look over and I'm like do the dramatic turn. And I look right at her and I'll go, because she was facing opposite direction. Uh-huh. And I go, Dr. Riley? Because the last I had seen her, she had finished getting her PhD.
Okay.
And she had moved to Torino, Italy.
Oh, okay.
So
just a hop, skip, and a jump away from Greece.
She moved to Italy basically the same year that we moved to North Carolina.
Okay.
And so she kind of I see her freeze and then slowly turn around because as she said later, she's like, nobody calls me Dr. Riley. I know I'm doctor, but... And she turns, and she's super confused, and then she sees me, and I'm just giving her this creepy big smile, oh my God, it's actually you. And we did that girl thing where we jumped and hugged and jumped and screamed while we were hugging each other. And then we got to spend the rest of the day in Athens with her and some of her other friends and colleagues who they just happened to be on holiday in Athens.
Dang.
The exact same time that we're in Athens
to
visit before moving to Santorini to get married.
Dang. That's crazy.
Yeah. So I had a buildup of doppelgangers before I actually saw someone.
I wonder if that means something.
Maybe.
Well, I'm going to tell you just a few, very briefly, paranormal doppelgangers that have different names. So the first one is Irish, and it's called a fetch, because we're going to make fetch happen.
I was waiting for that.
So this is a spectral apparition of a living person. So the ghost of a living person.
Or their astral projection.
Yes. So they're normally seen as ominous, usually an indication of the person's impending death.
Unpleasant.
I know. Although some think that seeing one in the morning means that you'll actually have a long life. and then seeing when the evening means you're going to die soon. So, I don't know. In Muslim cultures, there's something called a qareen, which is Qareen. It's also spelled Karin, which I want to say Karen, and I'm positive it's not that.
Corinne. I knew a girl who was Karin.
Okay.
It was Corinne.
Corinne. Okay. So a qareen is someone's spirit double living in a parallel dimension. So,
that is intricate.
Yes. Making it even more so. In some places, they believe that it's your double, but of the opposite sex, which is like there's just a dude, Katie, walking around.
Hey, in middle school, some girls were giggling over a yearbook of one of their like brothers or something, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, that's dude Katie."
Oh no.
So yeah.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, when I do that filter on Snapchat, the male version of me looks like Scott, our friend.
Really?
Yeah. It's freaky.
Don't y'all have the same birthday too?
Oh my gosh, we do. Well, and also usually when I do it, my hair is pulled up, and I think that helps because if it's like a male face, and the hair pulled back, and our friend Scott has long hair that he always has. Well, not anymore. He used to.
So you know how there's the Dudify, like that filter that makes you look like a guy. Well, there's also like the glamour one where it adds like big hair and makes you super feminine. I think I look better as a Snapchat dude than a glamored up female.
That glamour filter is really for select people. Because not all of us look good.
Saved some of.
I know. I want to see if that filters out because I want to show you.
Yeah.
I can't believe I haven't shown you this before.
Oh, look. Here we go. Prom royalty. That's me as a dude and me as a chick. Prom king and queen.
Okay. Katie, you as a dude?
Not bad, right?
Pretty hot. I'm not going to lie. It's like a good looking man right there.
Here we go. You want to see me as a handsome dude?
Yes, I already did, but yes, again.
This is a better looking dude.
Damn, Katie! What the fuck? Who's that guy?
He's a hottie, right? I'm much more attractive as a dude than a woman. Why did they change your
clothes? Oh, wait, is that a different picture?
No, that's a different... I didn't... No, this is an old one.
Okay, I was like, why did it change your clothes?
Because that's what I was wearing when I took the picture. And this is Walker as an adult.
Oh, no! That's a Matt Damon.
Yeah. And so this is Walker and I as women.
Okay. The qareen, yourself in an alternate dimension, possibly the opposite sex. In other places, it's not you as the opposite sex. It's just a complete copy of you down to your children, which is strange.
So your children are also doppelgangers.
Yes. So the qareen can be benevolent or harmful. And when harmful, it may try to persuade you to give in to your evil desires. My understanding of this was like your little shoulder angel.
Right.
Like,
that's what I was thinking
it
too.
looks like you.
Or your good twin and bad twin.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to like make assumptions about some other cultures, whatever. And then finally we have the mimic, my
least
favorite. So this is something that impersonates a living person for nefarious purposes. This is the most, I think this is like the most recent term used to describe this kind of phenomenon. Mm-hmm. And it's obviously, it's a slightly different definition than like a doppelganger.
Reminds me of a story I read about a girl who got home and, you know, her mother called from her bedroom. And so she started making her way up the stairs to her mom's bedroom, which I don't remember all the details of, but then, before she got to her mom's room, she heard the front door open and her mother call, like, hey, can you come help me unload some of the groceries? And so she's like,
I fucking hate stories like that.
Who the fuck is in my mom's room?
Right? Okay, I know I've told this story before about that time, the greatest prank Jarek ever pulled on me, when he learned that he could schedule texts to go out on his phone. And so I was laying beside him in bed, and he was asleep, to my knowledge. And I got a text from him that said, I don't know what it said, but I was like, I think I replied. I was like, are you awake? And then the next text I got, when he was he was
clearly not
he was not on his phone. The next text I got said, that's not the real Jarek. I had one of those moments like I had during the eclipse. Like, for a brief second, I was like, what do I do? What's happening? And I think he said something like, don't, like, you need to get out of the house or something. And I think finally I, hit him enough to wake him.
He needed to schedule a shortly there followed up, because if you actually left the house in the middle of the night, he needed to tell you, like, it's just a joke.
Honestly,
Please go back inside and lock the door and be safe.
Had I been in a different mindset, I might have left the house because it freaked me out. Okay, so
Jarek, you ass.
It was a good.
That was good.
Don't pull that shit though, when my anxiety isn't under control, because we'll have a problem. Okay, so I'm going to tell you about 3 examples of these different kinds of doppelgangers. So the first kind is and I'm going from most benign to most malevolent.
Sounds good.
So the first kind is a random person that just looks like another person. And this is just the very harmless, like what you were talking about, someone saw me and thought that I was someone else. I've
literally had someone, they were driving down the street and pulled over they could get out of the car and come approach me.
No, don't do that to anyone.
It was a woman, so it was a lot less creepy. And she's like, I'm so sorry to bother you. And I know this sounds hella crazy, so by all means say no. But you look just like if my friend had a daughter, you were what the daughter would look like.
Wow.
Could I take your picture, please, to share it with her, to show her?
Did she show you a picture of the friend?
No.
Oh.
I mean,
I would say yes.
She would have if I had asked, I'm sure. Because she was she was just so very genuine. I could tell in her energy that she was excited.
Yeah.
And thought it was cool and crazy, but understood that she was sounding more crazy than cool.
Yeah.
And also asked to take my picture, didn't just snap a picture of me, which so respect. And she's like, I'm sorry, I know this sounds hella crazy, but this is the wildest thing, and it's just, you look, she didn't say I look just like her friend, but if I was, if her friend had a daughter,
right,
I would be it.
Right.
So I was like, yeah,
sure.
I was like, go for it, take my picture. It seemed it was a picture of my face for a woman that seemed completely harmless and just excited to have this funny joke.
More than one person's day.
I clearly made her day.
Yes.
She was so excited. Even if I said no, she still would have been excited to have seen me and then could tell her friend.
Hey, if you ever see someone who looks like they could be my daughter as a young adult, take their picture. Ask and take their picture.
Yeah. Ask first.
Okay, so a lot of people have found their doppelganger, quote unquote, either intentionally through apps or websites like twinstranger.com.
I was about to say, haven't actual separated at birth twins found each other for thing I
think so. I think there's a documentary about triplets that were separated.
Ooh.
Or people have also kind of stumbled upon people who happen to look like them. I like those stories the best. There's a Bored Panda listicle I think it's like 50 people who just like happen to find their doppelgangers
I've seen
in the wild.
similar articles.
So your first picture, if you want to look, is...
I forgot I had a dog CA.
I know. It's my favorite 3. It's really just my favorite 1 plus 2 others from one of those listicles.
I closed my eyes so I didn't see the
It's
picture
okay.
behind it.
All your pictures are just people who look similar. So that bottom right one is my favorite.
It's hilarious.
because it's one guy who's smiling. They look like they're in a club or like a bar. And the guy
super
next to
creeped
him,
out by like, don't touch me.
he's like crying and like trying to get away from this other guy who's just like as happy as could be. And I just like to think that the one guy was just like really freaked out by seeing himself at this bar and was like, ew, get away.
He's probably like tripping too.
Yeah,
like he's probably
very
on
high
something.
or very drunk.
And tripping.
Yeah.
Whereas the other people just look like sisters. Which
Yeah,
is
they
great.
just look, and like one of them, I think the 2 blonde girls were, one of them was like, I met this girl at my brother's wedding and it was his wife's sister-in-law or something. And it's like, we're, absolutely no relation and wild that we're both like at the same wedding. And then there's one with this guy that was like, I accidentally found my doppelganger like on the plane and they took a picture together and then they got off the plane and both ended up at the same bar. It's just cute. Like, I love little stories like that.
Did I tell you this story about my found family at college?
No.
So I'm at University of Tennessee at Chattanooga for my freshman year. And spring semester I joined the rowing team because in fall I was in band. And, I meet these 2 girls, well, 3. 2 of them are twins.
Right.
And one is the girlfriend of one of the twins.
Right.
And so we all become fast friends.
Right.
And we hang out together. We have a blast. Everything's great. And at one point, one of the twins goes, I'm really glad we adopted you.
Oh.
It's like, I'm glad you adopted me too. Because they were like their little threesome.
Yeah.
And I got to become part of it. And then so the start of sophomore year, like first day of classes, I'm walking from one class to another in some building and I run into one of my friends.
Right.
And they're like, oh my gosh. And I can't remember if it was Emily or Megan. And like, Katie, did you see the messages I sent you on Facebook? I was like, no, I haven't been on Facebook in a couple of days because this is before Facebook was on your phone.
Right.
And so you constantly were on Facebook. I was like, no, I haven't been on Facebook today or a couple of days, whatever. And she just looks at me, she's like, we're related.
No.
So over the summer, they'd gone to a family reunion. And my grandmother has this big family tree because my grandfather was really into genealogy. So we've got this big family tree.
Right.
And so my name's on there.
Right.
And so they were at this family reunion looking at this family tree and they're like, oh, hey, that's the same name as our friend. Like, she spells it the same way and everything. And so, like, they got to talking to, like, hey, who is this? They're like, oh, yeah, that's so-and-so's granddaughter. She's about your age and, in college. And, and let's ask, so-and-so. Oh, yeah, she's so basically figured out that, we are related.
That's so cute.
Distant cousins in some form or fashion.
I love that. I want to find out I'm related to my best friend. I'm not, but I'm almost positive I'm not, but I love that.
Yep. But I'm like, it's funny because I feel like I don't look like anyone in my family.
Same.
But at the same time, I feel like
well,
they and I have more similarities than I do with any of my like immediate family. Yeah. And they're both blonde with like long, slender, like slim faces. Yeah. And so I'm just like, I can totally see how we could be related.
I do think the pictures I've seen of your mom, I think you look like her.
Oh, yeah. Especially pictures of my mom when she was young, I can pass off as pictures of me when I was little.
Nice. I love that. Same thing we'll talk about, or we'll say to Walker in 20 years.
Did I show you the picture of me in Thailand? I meant to show you that picture the other night. Yeah. He's my mini-me.
I know, he is.
Sure.
He's so cute. Okay, so in 2013, in Braintree, Essex, England, a man named Neil Richardson had just moved to the area, and he thought that the locals were particularly friendly. He's like, wow, everyone here's so nice. People are coming up to me all the time and saying hi. He's like,
are you sure he wasn't in India? Like a white dude in India? Because that was my experience.
He was like,
everyone wanted to take pictures with us.
Everyone's so nice. Everyone's always saying hi to me. They call me John, but like, whatever. I don't care. They're just really nice. So one day, Neil and his wife are on a bus trip to London to see the Magna Carta. And on that same bus happened to be John, who was this person that people kept mistaking him for. This man's name is John Jemison. And both men are like older. They're in their 60s or 70s, so they both have white hair and they both have beards, I think. Mm-hmm. Which to me, I'm like, okay, you already have like the same hair color and the same facial hair. That's already like 70%. But they looked similar in other ways. So they like get to know each other. They find out that they both went to the College of St. Mark and St. John. They both studied to be teachers. I think they both had similar jobs after college, but I'm like, well, that's...
So not only did they look similar, but when like a stranger calls him John and asks something about like
students or something,
yeah, have you run into your old students lately or something like that? Then it's actually, they can be like, yeah, how did you know?
Yeah, I have. You just forgot my name was Neil and I don't know who you are. That's fine. When they were paying for coffee on their like first little meet, they had identical co-op debit cards. I don't know what that means, but I don't know.
Same cards.
Their cards were similar. They both had a son who played the didgeridoo, which I had to go back and double check. I was like, well, are we in Australia? Because that would not be. No, we're not. These are British men and their sons who play the didgeridoo. And then they also lived just a half mile from each other, but they had never run into each other until now. They're your other picture if you want to look at them. They became good friends because they had similar personalities, which helped. And then they also discovered that they had looked similar as young men. So I included both pictures for you.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, when they're younger, I wouldn't say you could mistake them for each other. But if you saw them both walking around the same smallish town, I feel like you could easily maybe mistake one for another, especially if you didn't know them that well.
I mean, I feel like their head shape is different. So, like, if you, like, scooshed from top to bottom,
yeah,
like, a little bit and it widened out, then yeah, sure.
But most people aren't looking at that.
Yeah, no, this is because this is a still photograph that I get to stare and study and focus on all the detail differences. But I'm sure if I saw like a video of the two of them, it would be a different story.
Well, also, okay, so this is the cutest thing in the world. They began doing a performance together called Doppelgangers Read Poetry. Presumably of them just reading poetry. And when they do it, they wear matching outfits, obviously.
Hence the matching outfits in the photo.
And one of the outfits they wore was like some kind of sweater, but they both already had the sweater. So like they didn't have to shop for that one. And I think when one of the sweaters wore out, the one guy, like Neil or whoever, bought a new one and just bought a second one and gave it to John. He's like, well, now our sweaters will wear it the same.
I got a hole in mine, so I needed a new one, and
I hadn't got one for you. I know your size. I know it'll look good on you. Oh my gosh,
that's adorable.
I know.
See, I feel like you probably should have ended with that one.
Well,
start with the nefarious ones and end with the adorable.
To be fair, none of these are like super bad, except for the actual mimics. So, type number 2. is going to be the only way I could describe this is an apparition of a living person with no discernible motive. Okay, let me explain.
Like you're walking down the street and you just kind of glance down an alley and you see what looks like your buddy Tim, and you're like, and you stop and you go back and you look and the alley's empty and you're like,
yeah, this one's definitely paranormal. So we're going to go to 1845 in Latvia, a town.
I know nothing about 1840s Latvia.
I don't either.
I know next to nothing about present day Latvia.
Same. We had two, they weren't exchange students, but we had a girl named Yulia who lived with us for a bit from Latvia. And then a year or two later, her boyfriend Roma came and lived with us. And I love them both. And Roma lives like near my parents now, which is wild. And they broke up, but they both have their own families now. It's fine.
I mean, this was when they were teenagers or whatever, right?
Yeah, I think they were like 20.
Yeah.
Because I was a child. But Roma helped paint my bedroom purple. I think. I hope I'm not perpetuating a lie. Okay, so we're going to go to Livonia, which I don't know if it's still a place, but in 1845, it was 36 miles outside of Riga, which is the capital of Latvia. And we are going to meet Emily Seiji. I don't know if I'm saying her name right. She is French. So, who knows? Not. She's 32, and she's a teacher at Pensionnat of Nieuwelk, which is a boarding school for girls. That's all you really need to know about it.
Sounds good.
Like a expensive. So like the girls that were like, daughters of
the Latvian elite.
Yeah. And I think they came from all over.
The Eastern European elite.
Sure. So Emily was described as, quote, a blonde with very fair complexion, light blue eyes, chestnut hair, slightly above the middle size.
Wait, a blonde with chestnut hair? Chestnut is brown.
That is true. I literally copied this word for word, so I don't know what's happening.
All right.
I don't know. She either has blonde or chestnut hair.
Yeah. Or
okay.
blonde chest hair.
Maybe not. Slightly above the middle size and of slender figure. In character, she was amiable, quiet, and good-tempered, not at all given to anger or impatience, but of an anxious disposition. Same. And as to her physical temperament, somewhat nervously excitable. Same. So, Emily starts working at this boarding school. And she's like a great teacher. Everyone loves her. Like, no problems. And a few weeks after she started there, students began to like think that they had seen her in two places at once. So like one student would be like, oh yeah, I just saw Miss Emily like in the parlor, and I asked her about our math homework or whatever. And then another girl was like, well, that can't be right because I just saw her outside. Like she couldn't have been. One of us is wrong. But it happened enough that they told their other teachers about it, and the other teachers were like, we don't care, shut up, this is probably nothing.
Yeah, like yeah, you think that it just happened, and then you went and did something that took way longer than you thought it did. Like you saw her in the parlor, and immediately after you were done talking with her in the parlor, she got up and was walking somewhere else where your friend caught her outside.
Yeah.
And they spoke.
Yeah. And truthfully, if I was one of these teachers too, I'd be like...
That's 100% the conclusion I would
Yeah.
to.
And also, not my problem. I don't care. Like, if you're... Like, how does that affect anything?
What do I care if a woman is in two places at once? That means she can get more stuff done.
Yeah, good for her. We should all be like Emily.
Wish I could be in two places at once.
So one day, Emily was teaching class. There were 13 girls in the class, and Emily was writing on the chalkboard. And suddenly, the girls in class, all 13 of them, saw a second figure standing next to her. I don't know how this figure appeared. I don't know if they all glanced down at the same time and then glanced back up and she was there. But all of a sudden they realize that there's two. The second figure looked exactly like Emily, was holding a piece of chalk, doppelganger chalk, and mimicking Emily's movements, but the double was not writing on the board. She was just like
writing in the air.
Writing in the air.
It's like the weird opposite of, you know, teachers have eyes in the back of their head.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, this one does, but it's not paying attention.
So maybe it's not so much that teachers have eyes in the back of their head, or they're just able to like astrally project themselves mirrored. And
see, I think this is more of like an astral projection situation because of later things. They did not elaborate on this first instance. Like, I have so many questions. I'm like, what did they say? Did Emily see or confront the other figure? Did it just disappear? Did it like,
or are all the girls just kind of sitting in shock, like, I want to look and see if, you know, Sophia next to me is seeing this, but I'm afraid if I look away, it'll disappear.
Yeah.
And then I'll always wonder if I was just crazy, but because if I watch longer...
Yeah.
Like, basically, the longer I watch and the longer it lingers, the more likely that it's there.
Yes.
Speaking of
all 13 girls gave the same
story
description. So,
well, last night I had a similar ish.
What you saw? Someone
Similar-ish. I saw a shadow person in my
Katie,
room.
Stop it! I come to your house too much for me to like. Where? Hold on.
Woke up randomly
in your bedroom.
So I was in my bed.
Okay, good. I don't go
Our entire room was like pitch black as it normally is. But I mean, I say pitch black, but there's still enough light from various things that
for you to see shadows.
Sometimes.
Okay.
But like really, and I just, you know, I was on my side, I guess, and I was looking, you know, where the closet is and another thing. And I see a shadow that's crouched down by my bedside table.
Stop that, Katie. You stop it.
Let me finish the story.
Crouching. Okay. Let.
And I was just in that, like, I'm awake, but I'm not really awake. Like, confused, semi-conscious state where I just start saying, like, nope. Nope, this is not happening. Nope, you are not real. No shadow person, no sketchy murderer in the dark. Like, no, whatever nefarious things you're here to do, no, I'm not having it. It's basically, I'm just saying,
no.
Nope,
Did it move?
Over and over again. And then finally, it spoke.
Katie, my soul left my body. Stop. It did not speak.
It said, sorry, hon, I was just trying to plug in the monitor.
Oh my God. I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah.
Katie, why are you like this?
Because I can.
I hate you.
Yeah, no, it was Shelton.
Okay, but if you
trying to plug the baby monitor into the charging cable, and he was like, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to wake you."
Okay, but like, truthfully,
okay,
if I
not only did you wake me, but you freaked me the f out.
If I had seen a crouching figure that clearly that because it was an actual person. Oh.
I mean, honestly, the distance between me and that crouched shadow.
Stop saying crouched. I don't like it.
He was like squatted down looking for the charging cable on the floor.
I hate it.
The distance was probably about the same, if not a little bit closer than you and I are sitting
No,
right
thank
now.
you.
So like I woke up, like I opened my eyes, and in the darkness is this darker darkness in the shape of a person.
I hate this.
Down.
I'm never sleeping again.
But like I said, so my reaction, if basically somebody like sneaks into my room in the middle of the night and I wake up, you're getting attitude. You're getting nope,
no,
no.
I don't have time for this.
I don't know what you're in here to do, but no, I'm awake. Therefore, I see you. So stop, leave. Not tonight.
Okay, I secretly am very scared of spending the night in my grandma's house. And I'm pretty sure the first time I'm going to do it, I'm going to be alone because Jarek's going to have to work. And I don't need these thoughts of...
I could come spend the night with you.
Crouching. You're going to have to sleep in the bed with me.
Well, as long as you're okay with Critter being in the house, too. He can probably be in his own room and be fine.
We're going to have to clean a room. There are no other
He just has a pack and play.
I know. Oh, anyway. I hated that story. Thank you.
Here, before we get back into it, would you like some more wine?
Yes, I would like some more wine, Katie. Because you have ruined my night. I got
or have I given Jarek another prank of epic proportions?
Jarek, I swear to God. If you pull some shit like this, I will go live in that second house full time. Can't handle this.
It'd be a hell of a commute. Isn't it like an hour and a half?
Yeah, I've done it before. When I lived in Tarboro, I worked in Tarboro and I drove from Raleigh every day. I did that for like a month. Back to Emily. So a little while after her
mirror image.
Yes. A little while after this, a student named... Okay, the way it's spelled is Antony. So it's spelled Antone. But it's... I don't know, maybe that's
Antione.
Antione?
Like Hermione?
Okay. Antione. I like that. I kept wanting to say Antoine, but then I was like, that's not...
Yeah, that looks like Antoine.
Okay, we'll go with Antione. So she was getting dressed for something, and Emily was helping her, like, she was, like, buttoning up the back of her dress or something. Mm-hmm. And Antione glanced in the mirror... I hate mirror things. And saw a second Emily standing behind her, also buttoning her dress. And she freaked the fuck out and fainted. Which I don't blame her for. Because those things, like, you know when... I don't know. I feel like movies do it where, like, you see someone's reflection and they're looking... Like, the person's looking at you, but then their reflection is also looking at you. And it takes you a minute to realize that, like, that's not how mirrors work.
Yeah.
I don't like mirror things. But...
I get hung up on girls and women fainting all the time. Like,
yeah, fair.
I'm just curious about the physiology of it. Like, that's a physiological response to, like, stress or whatever, or fear. Right. And, like, you know, like with possums,
right,
in their fight or flight, their response is to play dead,
and it's involuntary.
Yes.
It's so cute.
Then there's the goats too, the fainting goats.
Oh, the fainting goats, yes.
That, they get scared and startled and they, like, freeze and faint and pass out, and then they wake up and everything's fine. But, like, I wonder, there's so many, tales and stories and whatnot of, like, oh, and then she fainted. And it's like, okay, did women really faint that much?
Yeah, how come the men weren't fainting so much?
Like, women deal with menstrual cycles and childbirth. Like, we're wilting violets. Like,
well, I feel like maybe the men also were fainting, but they didn't write that part down.
Maybe, but, like, so I'm just like, okay, was everyone, just, like, hella low on iron, or was it the tight corsets that was just restricting blood flow that already made them a little lightheaded?
They were really tired of standing and they just wanted an excuse to lay down for a minute.
Yeah.
A fainting couch.
Or, like,
you did a fainting when you came into my house today. You, like,
I did a face planting.
Well, but if that had been
much
a fainting,
less graceful.
If that had been a fainting couch, that would have counted as you, like, swooning or collapsing. That's what we would say.
Yeah.
Maybe women were just collapsing like that, of, like, exasperation
and exhaustion. And they're like, I'm over. Like, I'm not dealing with this right now. I'm just gonna, like, fall to the floor and close my eyes.
And then it just got, like, mistranslated as they fainted, when really it's like, no, she just collapsed voluntarily because she was over it. Maybe. Well, a few months later, how are we saying her name? Antiani?
Hmm.
Okay. I've already forgotten. She's now sitting with Emily because Emily's sick in bed, and Antiani is reading to her because she's like, I'm still a good person even though you scared the shit out of me. And she said Emily suddenly looked stiff and pale, and Antiani was like, are you okay? Are you getting worse? And Emily was like, no. But then Antiani noticed another Emily walking up and down the apartment. And this time Antiani's like, I'm not going to faint. I'm not going to freak out. This is fine. I have
to pay attention to what the heck is happening.
Yes. So she didn't say anything. She just kind of watched until it went away. But then right afterwards, she told her peers. She was like, oh, I gotta remember Emily, our weird teacher. Keeps showing up everywhere.
Shit got weirder.
Got weird.
She reminds me of like stories about those like time travelers who can't control their powers or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like she can astral project but not control it. She just has out of body experiences or whatever.
I think she's involuntarily astral projecting.
Mm-hmm.
Because after that, there was a day where all the girls in the school, so there's 42 girls total, they're all gathered in a large room, all working on their embroidery, as young girls do. And
I mean, that's a wifely skill, obviously.
I mean, I was cross-stitching when you came over, so.
I have many hand-knit items in my wardrobe, as well as many hand-sewn items in my wardrobe.
Yeah, needlework is great. So they're all sitting around a big table, and from where they were all sitting, they could see directly into the garden because it had like they said windows, but they were also doors.
I mean, this is pre-television, so obviously you want to sit in front of a pretty garden or a pretty view to do your needlepoint.
Yes. And so they could see directly into the garden, and they saw Emily out there gathering flowers, which was like something she did. And then at one point, the teacher who had been supervising them got up and left the room for something. And a short time later, the girls noticed that Emily was sitting in the chair where that teacher had been. And then they looked in the garden.
And she's still out there picking flowers.
And Emily was still in the garden. Although they said the Emily in the garden, quote, moved very slowly and languidly as a drowsy or exhausted person might.
Yeah, because she's like semi-conscious while part of her consciousness is sitting in the chair supervising the girls.
Yes, she's like splitting her energy. So two of the girls approached the seated Emily, who apparently was just sitting there. She wasn't like doing anything or saying anything. And they touched her, which I'm like, thank goodness there's two girls in the school who are finally like, we're going to investigate this shit. We've heard too much. So they touched her, and they said that, quote, they did feel a slight resistance, which they likened to that which a fabric of fine muslin or crepe would offer to the touch. And then one of those...
So she had really soft skin. She moisturized well.
So then one of the girls, like, walked really closely past her and walked partially through her. So, like... she's kind of there, she's kind of not. And like, so when I was thinking about like when they touched her, it was like probably like their hand went through, but they could feel some kind of slight resistance.
Like, have you ever been in super dense fog to where you run your hand through the air, or like you can't see your hand in front of you?
Yeah.
It's like obviously you're moving your hand, but you still feel something even though it's
Okay, so this figure just remains the same, gradually disappears, and once it disappeared, outside Emily seemed to get all of her energy back.
Perk back up.
Yeah. And so thankfully they like asked her about this. Like everyone in this scenario was like,
okay, what's the deal,
something's
Emily?
happening.
Like, we've had enough.
Yeah, they're like, 42 of us saw you. So she said the only thing that she could say about it, because she like didn't know when it was happening. She said that when she had seen the other teacher leave, she remembered thinking oh, I wish she hadn't left because the girls are going to not stay on task. Like, they need to be supervised. I wish that teacher hadn't left because, like, you know, can't trust these girls.
This is something I feel like you and I have talked about a little bit, but something that I've been thinking about more lately. Is slowly becoming my Roman Empire, I guess.
Love this.
Our brain power and how we only use a certain percentage of our brain or whatever. And it was sparked by some clip of a movie that I cannot remember. I think it's Morgan Freeman and Black Widow.
Scarlett Johansson?
Yes.
Okay.
Scarlett Johansson, I don't know the premise behind it all, but essentially has access to like 100%.
Lucy.
Yes, Lucy, that's it. She has access to like 100% of her brain power. Yeah. And it's like she can basically kind of has superpowers in a way.
Okay.
Definitely has like, she's like, yeah, I just read all of your research. You know, it took me 2 minutes and 46 seconds to read, you know. And, like, not only did she read and absorb and understand it all, but she also was somehow able to catalog the number of pages and words and letters and whatnot.
Right. She's like a supercomputer.
Yes. And so, people being able to do, like, this astral projection thing and, like, how she admitted thinking, like, I wish the teacher hadn't left, like, I wish someone was still there. It makes me wonder if she's not one of those people that has, you know, does she have control over more of her brain?
Yeah,
or,
without realizing it.
Or, like, yeah, and, like, not knowing that, so.
Yeah.
Everyone gets where I'm coming from. It's
yeah.
basically, instead of using only 10% of her conscious brain, or maybe she really only can control her conscious brain, but her subconscious brain is like, don't worry, we got this.
We got it. Yeah.
Your conscious brain was concerned about this.
You stay there,
hold my
flowers.
beer, pick your flowers. I'll go sit with the girls.
I'll go handle it. Don't worry. Yes. So the more they talked about it, they found out that the double never appeared very far away from where Emily was. She never knew it was happening. She didn't notice like the sluggish kind of feeling that other people seem to notice.
She didn't feel like she kind of slowed down
or she didn't remember. She could only ever tell that it was happening by the reactions of other people. So there were times that she would like notice like someone was like just kind of looking.
She was buttoning up a girl's dress and then all of a sudden she fainted. Of course she would notice something.
That's true. So she worked at the school for
looked in the mirror, probably looked horrified, and then passed out.
She worked at the school for 18 months, and during those 18 months, 30 of the 42 students were pulled out of school by their parents because of these strange apparitions. And so the school was like,
we need attendance.
Really like you as a teacher. Like, you didn't do anything wrong, but also we can't stay open if we don't have students. So they had to let her go.
That's a bummer. That's a tough spot for like both sides.
Yeah. But when that happened, Emily confessed that this was the 19th school she had worked at, because 18 schools before that had let her go because her double kept showing up and freaking everyone out.
Poor Emily.
I know. Poor. And like the way that this was written was like,
and it's all so benign too.
I know.
Like, yes, it freaks people out, but that's the worst of it.
But Emily too isn't doing anything bad.
No.
If anything, she's helpful.
Yes.
Right.
The double was literally like, oh, that teacher had to like go to the bathroom or something. Well, I'll take over.
Although, to be fair, when that double took over, the girls did not stay on task. And the double didn't do anything about it. Like, you'd think she'd be like, don't touch me, sit down, work on your embroidery. Wait for Mrs. Featherbottom to get back. Okay, so that's a double that is like...
I'm so glad they never were like, she's a witch!
Oh,
and then
yeah,
tried
I know,
to burn
thank
her at
goodness.
the stake.
I mean, 1845, but Still, you're in danger of being called a witch a lot of times.
Honestly, in today's society, you're dangerous being called a witch.
That's true. Okay, so doppelganger type number 3, an omen of death. So, I'm going to tell you about George Tryon. Not our Tryon person. I did look it up because I don't know anything about our history here. He was a vice admiral in the Royal Navy, so British again. As a young man, he was described, and this is, by the way, in like the mid 1800s. So as a young man, he was described as, quote, a tall, lanky lad, near 6 feet high, full of spirits and fond of a lark. Well, as an older man, Vice Admiral Tryon was described as being, quote, supremely competent, yet radical, and also as having, quote, a strong and sometimes overbearing personality. Another word that was used to describe him was a strict disciplinarian. So, like, eh. So, on June 22nd of 1893, George's wife, Clementina, sorry.
Yep, go with that one.
Clementina was hosting a dinner party at their home in London. So there was a bunch of people there, and several guests approached her, and they're like, we saw George in his dress uniform coming down the stairs, and he just like walked through some rooms. And that was weird because George was at sea at the time. Specifically, he was on the HMS Victoria, like heading up a fleet of ships running exercises. So there were 11 ships in this fleet. I got on a little mini rabbit hole figuring this out. Okay, so there's 11 ships, and they're sailing in 2 lines parallel to each other. So 6 in one, 5 in the other. So they're running maneuvers, right? So extra, whatever. So the columns were 1,000 meters apart per George's specific instructions. And then he ordered a turning maneuver in which each ship would turn inward and start back the opposite direction. So the 2 columns are going to turn like towards each other, but then create. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. There was a diagram on Wikipedia that helped me understand.
And it's not in my dog CA?
No, because it was actually a video, and I couldn't figure out how to save it. I'll draw you a picture if you want.
Too little, too late.
I know. I did try.
You did hand gestures, but what about the rest of everyone?
And then I thought, I'll just do the hand gestures instead of trying to print this out. You can take a video of me doing the hand gestures, and then we'll post that. So each ship had a turning circle of about 730 meters, meaning that's how much space they need to turn. So quick math, that means that they would need a minimum of about 1,500 meters between each column to turn safely. They had 1,000 meters between each column.
So they could turn, just not safely.
Not safely.
Turn recklessly.
Yes. And George insisted on this maneuver. The captains of both of the first 2 ships, so the first 2 in line on each column, they both kind of like assumed / hoped that he was going to give a different order like before they ran into each other.
Or they hoped the other would wait a little bit and let one go. And
yeah. And like everyone was kind of like, are you sure about that, Vice Admiral? And he was a strict disciplinarian, so he was like, just do what I said. So they turn. The Victoria is the front of, or the first in line of one side, and then a ship called the Camperdown was the first on the other. So they're performing this turn, and the Camperdown runs into the Victoria, and it strikes her 12 feet below the waterline. 13 minutes later, the Victoria capsizes, because that's what happens when you have a giant hole in your boat. Of the 750 men who were on board, 358 were killed, which is almost exactly half. If it was 358 and a half, that would have been exactly half.
So one guy survived, but he lost both his legs.
Yes, yeah. But George went down with his ship. So George died on the same night that several people back in London
saw him wandering around
his own house. So that's that version. I
wonder if he was like a weird like apparition / banshee in a way.
Ooh. I like to think that those are like, it's like time is kind of warping a little bit, and it's like their spirit just kind of taking one more
turn about the room.
Around. Yeah. Because there's other stories, like Abraham Lincoln famously apparently saw his doppelganger in the mirror next to him, but his doppelganger was like very pale and gaunt, and he told his wife about it, and she said she believed that it meant he would serve one term as president and then die before he could finish serving his second term, which is what happened, I think.
She was also big into the spiritualism.
She was she was big into that stuff.
She was into the woo-woo.
Yeah. And then Percy Shelley, Mary Shelley's wife. Was it Percy? The dude that Mary Shelley was married to.
Yeah. Mary Shelley's husband.
Mary Shelley's husband, exactly, as he should be known. Also saw his own doppelganger a couple months before he died at a very young age. There's like a bunch of other stories. They're all like famous people. Like Catherine the Great saw her double.
Nobody cares about, Edward down the street.
I was going to say Keith down the street.
who saw his doppelganger on Thursday and then got hit by a bus on Sunday. Mm-hmm. Like, nobody cares about Joe Schmo.
It doesn't make the history books. Okay, so mimics, which I hate. Like I said before, I could find almost no information except on TikTok, because apparently there's something called a mimic and like a game somewhere. I don't know.
So this is all anecdotal stuff. So
yes. This is according to...
No one can at us.
Yes. So apparently they are entities that can mimic someone's voice or appearance, and they do so to lure you to them. What happens if you go to them? I don't know. No one says. They just say...
Because no one who's gone to them lives to tell the tale.
I'm just saying, there's a lot of holes. Many people on TikTok...
It makes me think of skinwalkers from Supernatural.
Take a drink, because I'm about to mention skinwalkers in a minute.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. This wine's good, by the way.
It is.
You know.
So apparently don't get the whatever varietal you got, but the cab is good.
I still think I'm coming around to the Pinot. I think the Pinot Grigio. I think it just wasn't like, I convinced myself in my head I was ready for white wine. And I think I'm just a red wine girly all year round.
Preach.
Yep.
I make a special exception for the Sauv Blanc for certain occasions. Mm-hmm. But yeah, red wine, 365, my friend.
I'm here for it. So many people on TikTok report hearing, I say many people, like the people who are making these videos, report hearing a loved one's voice. So like their mom or their boyfriend, or sometimes their own voice, which I don't love.
That would not get me to go anywhere. Like,
first of all, I
don't like the sound of my voice. I want to apologize to all of our listeners. Thank you for listening, even despite the sound of my voice. Because obviously you care about the content more than...
If I didn't have a podcast and didn't hear my voice recorded normally, I don't know that I would recognize my own voice.
Well, remember, like, you and I have talked about it before, especially when we first started recording. Mm-hmm. I would definitely listen to all of our episodes, because I was also driving a lot more for field work and whatnot, so I was constantly listening to podcasts, and I would listen to ours, and there would be times where I'd be like, wait, was that Hannah or was that me?
Yeah, it's weird,
because I don't think you and I sound alike.
I don't either. And also, like, when I listen to your voice, I'm like, I don't think that sounds like the way that my recorded voice sounds, but then when I hear us together, I do have to sometimes, like, think, which one of us said that?
Yeah.
Did I say that?
See, and it's weird because your recorded voice to me sounds mostly like your hearing, like your in-person voice.
Yeah. I hate this phenomenon
so
of like...
then I listen to my recorded voice and I'm like, that's what I sound like to other people.
It's like one of the worst like letdowns in life is when you realize that you don't actually sound the way that you hear yourself. Yeah. It's terrible.
I mean, it's not that terrible for me, seeing as how I don't like the way my voice sounds in, my head as is.
Yeah.
And I really don't like it on recording, so. And the biggest letdown is for everyone else in the world, because despite how much I don't like the sound of my own voice and how much I don't like the sound of my voice on recording, I'm not gonna stop talking.
I was gonna say, we're here.
Yeah, it's not
we're
gonna
expanding.
Stop me. I'm gonna talk, and I'm gonna talk way more than you want me to.
Oh my god.
Sorry, not sorry. Come see us at the live show.
I know, for real. Okay, so they're either hearing someone's voice or they're seeing them. But the only ones I've ever heard of is when they see the person like with their back turned, which I don't love.
So you see the back of them, and the creepy thing to me would be seeing the back of someone and hearing them talk, but like talk away from you.
Yeah.
Like that would be creepy.
Well, and it's also like, okay, I know,
at someone when you're talking to them.
Yeah. Well, and also like, I would recognize the back of Jarek's head, right? Mm-hmm.
He would definitely recognize the back of your head. Hey-o.
Hey. Oh man.
That was an inappropriate joke.
You can cut that part out, Jarek, if you want to. Remember that.
He's gonna leave it in.
Listen to this. He does see the back of my head a lot more than I see his.
Right? Save for me and Shelton. See, I'll be right there with you.
Okay.
I'm not gonna drag you down and leave you there.
Okay, so I can imagine that like if mimics are real, the reason that they would like commonly appear as the back of someone is because it's easier to mimic the back of someone than their face. Mm-hmm. So like
you can do their voice.
Yeah.
And their the back.
Yeah. So theoretically, if in all these creepy videos I see where they're just like slowing down the video and catching like someone standing facing away from them and it happens to look like their husband and it's in a house where no one else is around, theoretically if they'd gone up to that person and looked them in the face, it would not have looked exactly like their husband.
I feel like there's movies where there's scenes where like someone's got like a blanket draped around them or like a cloak or something in a hood, and it's someone's like loved one's voice, like, oh, I'm I'm sitting by, they're sitting by the fire and they're like, would you please come here and bring me some water? Like I've come down with a cold, or and can't get warm, and like trying to play the pity card as well as the I'm your loved one, even though you can't see me, and then they get there and it's the evil witch or whatever.
Yeah. Also there was something I read about like the uncanny valley, about how like mimics can't really ever perfectly duplicate the person they're mimicking, and that there's something uncanny valley about them where like kind of like what you were saying earlier about like there's something about it, like those videos where it's like I can't quite place my finger on it, but there's something weird about it. Yep. Like when you see something that's AI generated and you're like, my brain is smart enough to know that this isn't real, but I can't.
Shelton sent me a picture. This was a while back. He sent me a picture of this kitchen that had, like it was like a lot of wood and like natural wood. Like there was a tree growing up in the middle that the bark had been shaved and like oiled and preserved, and like all the counters. And it was like this, the kitchen was like this circular area. Mm-hmm. And he's like, not sure how you would get in and out of the kitchen, but it's like really cool because like there's the countertops and like bar seating on, so you could sit out on around the edge. And it was just like a lot of cool, like natural wood kind of like carved into this kitchen with appliances installed. And, like if you just glance at it, you're like, oh, that's really cool. And then you move on.
Right.
But I stared at it because I was like, there's something wrong here. Mm-hmm. And I stared at it and I looked at it and I was like, wait, this doesn't match with this and this and this and this. And I was like, this is an AI image.
Yeah.
And so I sent him back and I was like, yeah, you don't get in because that's not a real picture.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
I mean, it.
It'll get you, but there's.
What if AI is the real mimic?
It is.
I hate that. Stop. I don't want mimics to be real.
I mean, so I noticed, I'd look at some product on Amazon and I'd go down to the reviews for a while now. Before you even get to any of the reviews,
you get that there's an summary.
AI generated summary.
Truthfully, I kind of like that though, because it saves me some time.
Well, yeah, but they all kind of say the same. They're like, oh, customers liked this, this, and this. Reviews are mixed on these things. Yeah,
they're mixed about, efficiency or whatever.
They're mixed on quality. They like the ease of setup and use.
Yeah, but they're
mixed on, like, efficiency. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, well, that's what I'm here for. Does it work?
The only reason I think that's helpful is because you'll read that sometimes, and then you'll read, like, the first 10 reviews, and they'll all be positive.
I intentionally scroll and find. I miss when they had the star ratings, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and they had the bar next to it that showed percentages. They might on the website, but on the mobile app, it's not there.
Oh, I only ever use a mobile app. I feel like I've seen it before or recently.
Well, I haven't seen it. Anyway, I would intentionally go and look at the first couple of reviews because they're all typically the 5 or 4 star reviews. And after a couple of reviews, if I didn't find a mid to low rating, I would intentionally go click on the 1 star and 2 star reviews to be like, well, what were your problems with it? Yeah. But I've noticed, like, the past couple of days, I go and Google something just on my Google search bar, on my Google app, whatever. Google now has an AI generated summary for what I'm looking for. No. And so, like, yes, again, that is convenient for I'm like, okay, well, what's the average lifespan of a cat? Or, because I told you Mira had to go get a wellness exam. Anyway, and then there's the AI generated summary. And I'm like, okay, that's great for a couple of things. Or like, what's the cooking temp for chicken or whatever. Yeah, I just need a quick, that's fine. But then there's other things where it's like, no, you need to actually, because like, AI can generate a summary.
But they can't take into account like what's credible and what's...
Well, there's that, but then there's also, like, context or whatever. So, like, if you look at raw numbers, sure, but if you're not explaining those numbers properly...
Right.
Like, basically, information can be misinterpreted.
Right.
And so, there's just some things where, you can totally gloss over it. Other things, no, you need to read the article and you need to be like, okay, so here's some of our findings. However, we have to take into account all these other biases. And what that really means is this. That's not considered or not added to in the AI summary.
Right.
So basically, the AI summary is dangerous because it also creates laziness.
Yeah.
Like, we already have a major problem with scientific literacy. I'm sorry, scientific illiteracy. People are like, oh, there was a study done, so... Blah. Yeah. And I'm like, you're not interpreting that study properly.
Yes.
So we already have a problem with that. And now, if people can just do a search and just look at the AI-generated summary, they're not actually reading the information. They're not doing any critical thinking.
Yeah. I hate AI.
I hate AI too.
I don't think anything in my life has been made easier by it.
No,
like I
just trying to search for like people, or you like, oh, there's a restaurant that I like.
Well, and
I'm gonna go find their Facebook page to see if they've got a new menu, or are they open on this holiday weekend or whatever.
Ooh, by the way,
you can't just search Facebook anymore. You have to ask Meta AI. I don't want to ask AI.
Meta AI. Okay, so unclear. Well, okay, so there are warnings that you shouldn't respond to or speak to a mimic. Like, they're like, if you hear one, don't reply to it.
Yeah. But most people on a day-to-day, we have so much input, so much going on in our brains, and also we are just so freaking self-centered and unaware of our surroundings that we're all on autopilot. Like, nobody is using critical thinking when their loved one calls out, "Hey, hon."
I'm like, what?
And then their mini-me calls out, "Hey, hon."
Honestly, this mimic would just make me mad because, like, if I heard Jarek's voice be like, "Hey, hon," and I say, "What?" and then he doesn't say anything, I'd be like, "What? What? What do you want? What? Why are you calling me? What? Why did I have to pause Bridgerton? What's happening?"
You're so affectionate.
I am. Listen.
Hey, it's fair. I'm
trying to watch my show.
My husband's love language is physical touch, and mine is not. So every now and then, it's only if I'm like sick or not feeling well, or I'm sad or whatever, I'll go in and like seek physical comfort from him, and like I'll go and hug him.
Yeah.
So if I randomly will go, like today, I went in, I'm like, you know what? I want to mess with my husband. I'm going to go, like, hug him and snuggle him and love all up on him just to mess with him. Then he's going to wonder, like, oh, is she sick? Is something wrong? Did she do something?
Oh, God.
Is she guilty?
See, I don't do
so
that.
I'm going to go mess with him.
I do like to snuggle.
And so he was making some sandwiches, and I always, even when it's not to, like, mess with him like that, a lot of times if he is, like, in the middle of something, like cooking, where he obviously, or doing something that he obviously cannot stop,
right,
and hug me back or be affectionate back to me, I'll go and like hug him from behind or like love on him and give him a kiss on the cheek, because I don't want it reciprocated.
Oh, God.
Don't touch me.
Yeah, we're not the same.
Don't touch me until I want you to touch me. Therefore,
I was gonna say, there have definitely been some nights, although this mostly has to do with my, like, weird sleeping, needing it to be quiet thing. Because Jarek will sometimes, like, we'll snuggle, but his mouth will be, like, right next to my ear. And he's a loud breather. I love him to death, but God, he's a loud breather. And so sometimes I'll just be like, get off me. Or, like, I gotta roll over. Like,
I will, like, scooch over
or,
to
like,
be
you get
like,
too
all right,
hot. Like, if you're
snuggle
hot,
me.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, when I'm done snuggling, we're done snuggling.
Then roll over.
But then, like, this morning, he rolled over to snuggle me, and I'm like, this is nice. Yeah. And then he was like, after a little bit, he started rolling. I was like, no. I didn't say we were done. Where are you going? He's like, you're really toasty. And I'm like, yeah, and now I'm cold because you went away, so come back. We're not done snuggling.
People are very warm. Body heat is a real thing. Yeah. Okay, skinwalkers and wendigos. I have like 2 bullet points left. Wendigos. So these are, go back and listen to our Wendigo episode. These are entities thought to consume people with greed, gluttony, and insatiable hunger, aka cannibalism. So I think one of the beliefs was like it would turn you into a cannibal, or like this, like the one, I think the story that we told was like this guy who was straight, I don't know, he was in like an extreme situation and he had to eat some people to survive. And I think the thought was that he like got this insatiable hunger for human flesh and turned into like a Wendigo.
Gollum.
Yes.
From Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
Not to be confused with a golem.
Yes, which we should do an episode on.
We should.
So Wendigos and skinwalkers, which I guess are sometimes interchangeable, lure their prey to them by mimicry. So they will mimic a loved one or whatever to get you to come to them. In their case, though, I think they want to eat you. So that's like more cut and dry, clear. I know what the risks are.
I'm cool with that because I understand their motivation.
Yeah, I don't know what a regular mimic wants from me. There is some lore that says that they can possess you and then turn you into a Wendigo. So you're going to be eaten or you're going to eat other people at some point.
Eat or be eaten.
Yeah. And then the final thing I want to mention is something called otoscopy. Okay, it's the word otoscopy, but with an HE in front of it. Because otoscopy is its own thing, and this is otoscopy, I guess.
Okay.
So it's a symptom, it can be a symptom of schizophrenia or epilepsy. And it's when you see your own body at a distance. So it's a hallucination, a visual hallucination.
Okay.
Specifically of seeing yourself kind of far off. So
glad to know I never experienced that.
Yeah.
So woohoo! Not schizophrenic. Probably, hopefully. No, definitely. It's no way.
It's thought to explain some doppelganger experiences, but like obviously not all of them because it's pretty specific to certain mental disorders. So like you can't
also,
just be like
it's
everyone
very egocentric in a way. Like if you're seeing yourself, that's strange.
Yeah.
Like seeing others is, just to your mind. I think it's you're out and about. And you see someone kind of at a glance, especially if it's like out of the corner of your eyes or like you're in a crowd of people and you see a glimpse of someone.
Right.
Even if you try and do a double take and get another glance, there's particular features that are similar enough to other people that you've known that your brain your brain is doing a whole lot more than what you think it's doing.
Right.
And so your brain sees some things and makes some connections. Kind of like how dreams, like when you're dreaming. You're like, oh, I had the weirdest dream about race cars last night. Well, it's like, well, yeah, I was, playing, I was watching my nephew play with race cars yesterday or whatever. So, like, your brain's just constantly making connections. And so I think it's totally normal to see doppelgangers of people that out and about in the world and be like, wow, I haven't seen, Austin in 5 years.
Yeah.
I thought that was him in the crowd, but no, it wasn't.
No. However, if you just hear a voice of someone, like if I heard my mom calling me right now, not
if I heard my mom calling me right now, I'd be freaked the fuck out.
You'd have another problem on your hands.
The sad part is I honestly don't know if I would recognize her voice at this point.
Oh, that's sad.
I mean, it's been over 20 years.
Do you have videos of her?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Listen to those. I was thinking about my grandmother and her voice because it's been 20 however many years. And I was thinking of a home movie that I have that's got her voice, and I was like, because of that, I can like remember exactly what she sounds like. Just
There's one thing. There's like one little audio clip that my brain 100% has saved and like easily accessible. My mom was a huge cheese ball. Like she's
love that.
So goofy, so cheesy, and like the 90s were made for my mom because she was the queen of like 90s tack. Like 90s tackiness.
Yeah.
She had button covers.
Love that.
So they were these little, for people who are not in the know, they're these little things that you would just like kind of open up and slide over buttons of like a button down shirt and like clasp together. So it would look like you had pearls.
Yeah.
Like pearls instead of buttons or like you just fancy things instead of just, whatever buttons.
Yeah.
She had things like that, and she would wear, like, she had apple ones, So they were little, like, wooden apples.
They're a bitch to button, but so cute.
Well, I mean, you button your shirt and then you just slide on and snap together.
Yeah.
I probably have some of her button covers still saved in a jewelry box somewhere, whether at my house or my dad's house.
Mm-hmm.
But she would wear those with, like, some, like, button-down blouse that had, like, teacher embroidery all over it.
Love that.
So, like, a denim or, whatever, similar shirt. Had like rulers and apples and pencils all over, kind of like the top of it. Yeah, she had all that. It was great, but she's also super cheesy, and she would sing in the Cinderella mice voices.
Okay.
Like when encouraging me to like get out of bed. It's time to get out of bed. It's time to get dressed. You can do it. You can do it. You can really, really do it, Cinderella. And so that right there, but in the Cinderella mouse voice, that like audio clip. That like, I have to like really sit quietly and really think and access the memory banks to try and remember her voice. But that one's like easily and readily on standby.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that.
So yeah, but honestly, even if I heard other people's voices, like Shelton's, yes.
Yeah.
Yours, probably.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, and especially like if they're only saying like a short phrase, and like
if they literally said like, "Hey, Katie," I'd be like, "Hey, you."
Yeah.
I was at the grocery store the other day, and I saw someone. I was basically over on produce, so one side of the store. And I saw this woman just like, "Hey, fancy seeing you here." I was like, "Yeah, I'm never here." Like, you're familiar enough to me that like I know you.
Yeah.
And like clearly you know that my husband works in the pharmacy here, but I cannot for the life of me place you.
Yeah.
Like, I cannot think of your name. I don't know who you are, how I know you, anything like that. It took me until I was like on the beer or the household Gesundheit.
Thank you.
I think I was on the like household items. So like basically the opposite side of the store. Until I was like, "That's so and so. She's the bartender at this place, and she's our neighbor."
Yeah, that's funny.
I'm just like, cheese and rice.
That could also just be mom brain for you.
I actually think that's more ADHD related. I mean, definitely mom brain plays a role in it.
Yeah.
But like I've always been bad. Like people always recognize me. Like, "Hey, how's it going?" And I'm like, "Hey,
Hey you."
Part of it is because if I don't see you regularly, I forget that you exist, but I never stop loving you.
There you go.
So, like, if you and I, obviously if the podcast didn't exist, and you and I didn't see each other for, like, 6 months.
Yeah.
In that time, there's a chance that I would forget you exist, but, like, not in a negative way.
Yeah, just in a, I'm not,
and
you're
so,
not seeing
like,
it, so.
in that 6 months, you might be like, well, you know, Katie hasn't made any attempt to reach out, so I like her less. Meanwhile, I'll see you and be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to see you. I'm just as happy to see you as I was the last time."
Yeah. Well, that's mimics and doppelgangers for everyone. And
People with ADHD.
I'm just going to pretend that doppelgangers are all like Emily's, where they're just...
involuntary astral projection.
Yeah, they're just hanging out.
They just have more control over their brain.
Yeah.
They have more brain power.
But I'm still probably going to, if I'm suspicious of someone calling my name, I'm just going to ignore it and make them call me again.
I was at Target the other day, and I thought I heard someone calling my name, but I was like, nah. it probably is somebody saying something that sounds similar.
Like yeah.
And they're talking to somebody else. I kept hearing it. And then finally I stopped and turned, and it was our friend Taylor. She's about to make me chase her through the store.
I was going to say, I'm also friends with 2 other people named Hannah, so
I never assume people are calling my name.
I've gotten used to ignoring the Hannah thing.
I never assume anybody wants my attention. I just go hang out in the kitchen and cook food for people.
Oh, Lord.
Bring it out to be like, hey, there's food. And then I go back and make more food. And I come back and all the food is gone. I'm like, well, there's more food.
Well, speaking of food, I can smell my food.
That's been great. So I'm going to not keep you from your dinner anymore.
That's okay.
If anyone wants to see pictures of the doppelgangers from tonight, you can check out our Facebook and Instagram at The Tales We Tell Podcast. If you want to see pictures but don't do the social media, check out our website, thetaleswetellpodcast.com. And if you want to support us and get yourself some sweet, sweet swag, you should check out our Redbubble store. Just search The Tales We Tell. We've got multiple different logos, and you can put that shit on anything. And if you want to support us but you don't need the stuff except, I don't know, early access, commercial-free listening, sometimes some fun bonus content, some stickers and love notes, and as always, our undying love and affection, you can become patrons at patreon.com. Search The Tales We Tell.
Yep. And keep an eye out on YouTube, which our YouTube channel is The Tales We Tell Podcast. Because hopefully in the next few days we will be uploading. I don't know if it acts retroactively, but going forward at least will be you'll have access to our episodes.
And even if you don't want to listen via YouTube, if you have like a Google or Gmail or whatever, if you have an account through YouTube, at the very least, just log on, find our YouTube account, and if you can, I mean, it costs you nothing. It's literally just click the button, subscribe.
Yep.
Because the more subscribers we have, the better reach we'll have.
Yeah. And promise, the only thing we put, well, very occasionally we'll put other like extracurricular videos, but you're not going to get random videos from us. They will mostly just be the podcast.
Yeah.
So
and also, like, I subscribe to YouTuber channels and I get like 0 notifications from them. So like, you're not by hitting subscribe, you're not really subscribing to anything. You're just helping us.
True.
So
yes. Well, thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.